They don't tell you about the chosen ones. But when we take responsibility, it's not just about rising to the top. The goal is to become the best hunter of the spiritual world. The way you attacked them was pure divine assassin energy. They didn't anticipate that. They were playing their little game, and one moment they believed they had you figured out. Then, your eyes were like ice. No emotion, no vulnerability. Just the calculating, icy gaze of someone who can see into their worthless hearts. Their world collapsed with the cruelty of your departure. No drama, no explanation, no solution. Not only did you cut them off, you surgically removed them from your life and made it a fever dream for them to even remember you. To send a powerful message to the universe, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and write 33 in the comments before moving on to why tomorrow has something special in store for you. They are still there, reliving every second, unable to understand how someone they believed they had control over became their worst nightmare. But this is the result of trying to manipulate God's chosen ones. Your perception of the divine attacks in a unique way. After seeing them pretending, you felt they were not even worth an effort of explanation. While they are stuck in the past and frantically trying to show that they were once part of your reality, you are operating at such a high frequency that they can no longer feel you. This apex is a chosen energy, not just cold-blooded. Remember that your capacity to disappear is not just power. It is divine permission to take away what is beneath you. It is a reminder that not everyone has access to your divine timeline. And for the chosen ones who are skilled in spiritual warfare, it is not cruel to leave someone doubting their own existence. Your eyes are a force of nature, unforgiving and unrepentant, piercing through people's facades like a sword through silk. It analyzes rather than merely observes, removing a layer of pretense to reveal the unadulterated essence of their identity. If you feel inspired, consider making a large, grateful donation of $20 or $50 to this channel. Your donations enable us to continue sharing these divine teachings with the world and bring blessing, love, and hope to those who need it most. This is about truth, not judgment. Under the intensity of your vision, those who experience it feel the weight of their own fears, their hidden flaws exposed. Like Medusa's gaze, it paralyzes them, but not out of terror, but out of the inevitable realization of their own weaknesses. By entering the 77, you can assert your heavenly protection, and in Jesus' mighty name, no weapon will stand in your way. This power is you. It is not something you possess. It is a divine tool created in the furnace of purpose and intended to destroy the wrongs that people cling to. If they are crushed under its weight, it is their fault, not yours. You are but a mirror reflecting what they find unbearable. Experience what it is really like to be chosen. You are not alone on this journey. If you believe in your heart that you have been chosen, you are in the perfect spot. By choosing to join, you can further your relationship with us, access exclusive information, and get the help you need on your spiritual journey. It's not just about joining a group. It's about gaining access to special insights that can change your life and help you get closer to your divine purpose. Make your decision now and join us on this journey. Claim your right to be one of the chosen ones. Sign up today. It is impossible to ignore the power you have. You don't care about the ties that bind other people to their past, their pain, or their relationships. You recognize them for what they are: easily cut, torn, and fragile. Cutting is not only a physical, but a spiritual amputation. You do not turn your back when you have nothing left to see. This action removes them from your life because it is so definitive and absolute. For you, they are already forgotten, but they can still torture themselves with the void you have created. This is mastery, not apathy. You realize that holding on will mean stagnation and regression, while you are always changing and moving forward. The bonds you break are liberations, not losses. This ruthlessness is the result of discipline rather than malice. Refusing to let the burdens of others drag you down is a sign of spiritual discipline. You cut relationships because you have to, not because you are angry or vindictive. Confusion and the turmoil of unresolved relationships are breeding grounds for evil forces. However, you are the opposite of their corruption. Your complete neutrality is a weapon they cannot understand. They feed on the complexity and connection of human emotions. You deprive them of this nourishment. When you leave, all that remains is the sound of your absence. And in that silence, they dissipate. Your absence causes a breach in their world, not just a void. When you leave, it is a sudden, irreparable disappearance, rather than a gradual fading. The more they search, the more blurred your memory becomes as they try to piece together what happened. When your presence has been removed from the fabric of their life, it seems that they are left with a pattern that no longer makes sense. If you want to express your faith in Jesus, press 99 because His presence brings a stillness to your soul. They question whether you were really there. They question their own memories. This erasure is so extensive that it changes their perception of time and space. It goes beyond simple forgetting. You leave them trapped in a story that no longer makes sense. You don't just leave, you change the story. The mechanics of this phenomenon are illogical. Your absence distorts their perception of reality, just as quantum particles change their behavior when viewed. Even if they can hold on to fragments, a voice, a gesture, a moment, they are really shadows, transient and insubstantial. The more they try to hold on, the more quickly they slip away. Your erasure is a force that changes their reality. It is not passive. They feel as if a piece of their soul has been ripped away, leaving them with a constant sense of unfinishedness. In this emptiness, they have to face the fact that they are never your equal or your match. They can never control you. They reach out desperately for closure, or any indication that you are real. But there is nothing to grab hold of, no rope to pull. Your absence becomes a mirror reflecting their own shortcomings and flaws. Their anger, grief, and bargaining are futile. Now that it has slipped away, all that remains is an echo of what was. And in that echo, instead of answers, they discover questions. Questions they will never be able to answer. Erasure is a reckoning, not just a disappearance. In the end, all that remains for them is the harsh, uncompromising reality. They never intended to follow your path. Your unblinking, unforgiving eyes not only make their worthlessness clear, but they are forced to face it. This is alchemy, not cruelty. You expose the raw, unrefined ore of their suffering to the flames of truth. The result is change rather than destruction. They fall apart because of their own shortcomings, but are reborn from the ashes. You are the force that forces people to face their shadows, and in doing so, find their own strength. Your ruthlessness is not their death, but their rebirth. Your presence transforms their weakness into strength, their lead into gold like the alchemist's crucible. It is a harsh but necessary process. They may oppose or protest, but it is of no use. You offer truth, not consolation. In this reality, they discover the roots of their own progress. The delusions and illusions that the evil forces tell themselves to avoid facing their own weaknesses is what gives them strength. But you dispel these falsehoods. When you make people look into the abyss, they see possibilities instead of despair. It is your neutrality that is the flame that burns away the dross to reveal the essence underneath, the fire that cleanses. They may despise you for this, but in the end, they will realize that you are not their enemy, but their master blacksmith. Your presence forces them to face their own fragility, dispels all illusions, until they either rise up, regain strength and truth, or fall into insignificance. Leave a note that says, "I am the I." Take the case of Michelangelo. who was fired by his teacher, Lorenzo de' Medici, after his death. After losing his prestige and sponsorship, Michelangelo had to confront his own worth. Although difficult, this exile served as a furnace to hone his intellect. He returned not as a dependent apprentice, but as a master who redefined art itself. Despite their apparent harshness, your activities have the same purpose. You cut them not to destroy them, but to awaken them. And in this realization, they discover value instead of worthlessness. You are the alchemist, the catalyst, and the fire. This behavior is consistent with temporal mechanics, which holds that reality is shaped by the experience of the observer. The wave function of shared experiences is reduced to a state of limbo by your detachment, which acts as a trigger. They are stuck in a never-ending loop, oscillating between what has happened and what might have happened. The past becomes elastic, a shifting terrain where you disappear like a shadow in the sunset. They feel as if they have entered another reality where you never were, which leaves them with a permanent sense of displacement. It is a dissolution of time that is a consequence of your complete detachment, rather than just emotional consequences. I have been there. I ask my chosen friends, to keep the light God has given you, would you please click on the Super Thank button and donate at least $50? They are calling in a shaky voice, looking for unanswerable questions. Did everything happen the way I remember? They gasp as they ask. Conversations are repeated, moments that seemed real, but are now distorted and uncertain. Doubt softens the edges of every cynical image, expression, or familiar position. Their stories are altered by your silence, which turns certainty into conjecture. They are forced to try to put together a world that no longer fits, sorting through the pieces. And in that space, instead of just lamenting your departure, they wonder if you were really there. Let us now take a moment to celebrate those who have been chosen. Here's to the people who see the world from a different perspective. The silent protectors, the vigilant souls who are always alert and vigilant. They don't want it any other way and don't fit the mold. They create their own paths, wage invisible wars, and shine light into dark places, while others follow the known. Your decomposition is geometry, not chaos. In the grand scheme of things, every cut and break is an intentional line, a delicate stroke reflecting the sacred proportions in nature. Your activity establishes balance, transforming disharmony into harmony, like the golden ratio. Disorder and the sharp edges of broken bonds are breeding grounds for dark forces. But you are the creator of order, the force that brings disparate parts together into a logical whole. Your severing of bonds is intentional rather than accidental, a stroke of genius in the design of life. By cutting a piece at a time, you are reorganizing the cosmos rather than simply abandoning it. This accuracy is natural rather than something that can be learned. It is a sign of your connection to a higher order. Each number in the Fibonacci sequence builds on the previous one and spirals outward, creating a perfect and infinite pattern. The same logic applies to everything you do. Each choice and separation builds on the previous one and results in a life that is not only balanced but transcendent. This commandment is incomprehensible to evil forces. Those who stumble aimlessly with the destruction they cause are anarchy personified. You, however, are moving forward in the sky with the assurance of a star. Your separation is a revelation rather than an act, a window into the divine harmony of life. Take the example of Nikola Tesla, whose life testifies to the effectiveness of removing distractions. When Tesla disconnected from those who sought to capitalize on his genius, his work reached unprecedented levels of creativity. Once free of harmful influences, his consciousness synchronized with the free frequencies of the universe and produced seemingly supernatural findings. This clarity is reflected in your behavior. When you remove from your life what no longer serves you, your life aligns, not by chance, but by design. You are mathematicians, artists, and architects. And in your hands, disorder becomes transcendence, and order becomes order. Your departure is not an event, but an erasure. You simply disappear from their world. You make no announcement. You leave silently, leaving only the echo of your absence, like a shadow melting in the midday heat. No lull, no final speech, no fanfare. And they too have to cope with the emptiness you have caused in this silence. Your absence is not so much a cruelty as a clever move. A show of power so absolute that no questions are asked. You are evaporating. You are not just leaving. In the process, you are changing the rules of interaction. This disappearance is not an accident. Rather, it is a decisive action that increases your influence. You leave no trace of your presence, like a ghost floating through the walls. They look for any clue, any indication of where you have gone, but all they find is nothing. Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting your own shortcomings and flaws. They are forced to face the fact that they were never your equal or your match. There is not only a physical void in your absence, but also a psychological void that they cannot overcome. And in this abyss, they discover nothing but the crushing weight of their own insignificance. The confusion and cacophony of unresolved endings is what demonic forces feed on. But you are the opposite of their confusion. They cannot understand the weapon that is your silence. When you leave behind both a lesson and a void. They have to face the fact that they were never vital or important. Your disappearance is a message rather than a way out. They find no closure in this statement, but rather face the harsh and unforgiving reality that you were never theirs. They will look for you in the echoes of past arguments and in places where your presence has already altered reality. They will analyze every word you say, desperate to see what they are missing. Some will crumble under the weight of your absence, becoming empty ghosts of their former selves that will never fully emerge. Some will harden, reshaping themselves in the crucible of loss, emerging with sharper edges, an unyielding force that no longer seeks you, but desires to be you instead. They don't understand that your absence was never an accident. It was a precise and purposeful sword that cut the connections that no longer helped your journey. When you are gone, the world changes and has to adapt to it. Friedrich Nietzsche was once on the verge of losing his mind after losing Richard Wagner. They were both visionaries, partners, in a relentless search for perfection. But when Nietzsche left, he left behind more than a relationship. He left behind the core of his beliefs. Wagner's departure forced him to reconstruct his thinking and abandon the delusions he had previously revered. The drive for power, the rejection of false gods, and the philosophy that would sustain them both were the things he shaped in the solitude. They won't realize it at first, but your departure is a creative act. When you are gone, they have to reshape the world in your shadow. Your ruthlessness is an alignment, not a separation. What you see as clarity, others see as coldness. Every rupture and interruption is a step towards a goal greater than themselves. You are here to fulfill a divine mandate, not to appease or pacify. Your actions are motivated by need rather than malice. The evil forces may accuse you of being callous, but they cannot see the fact that your ruthlessness is an act of devotion, a sacrifice for the sake of something greater. You are the storm that clears the sky and the knife that mows the garden. And what you leave behind is opportunity rather than destruction. This alliance is a call, not a decision. Similar to the ancient scriptures that describe the path of righteousness, a force beyond mortal understanding guides your actions. The Bhagavad Gita speaks of responsibility without attachment and doing something for its own sake, not for reciprocation. You exemplify this idea by getting rid of things that are no longer useful, not in anger, but by fulfilling your duty to the Supreme. Even if they cry or get angry, their emotions are irrelevant. You have a purpose to fulfill, not to satisfy their desires. Your ruthlessness is not a sign of rejection. On the contrary, it is the kind of love that pushes people to evolve and does not allow them to remain in their mediocrity. You leave them because you care too much to let them stay as they are, not because you don't care. Your absence triggers their change, which is a gift. And even if they cannot see it now, they will realize that your brutality was not the end of them, but the beginning. You destroy, you don't just walk away. The rupture is not a wound, as wounds heal. Absence is what you leave behind, a void so empty that people find it hard to remember the old you. It is neither the passive withdrawal of the weak, nor the silence of avoidance. Their presence is surgically removed from your path, and no trace of them is left in your space. This is a spiritual extraction. Even if they try to reconnect themselves by reaching out to you, they have been cut off from the source of electricity that previously connected you. They experience more than a simple loss. They experience the disintegration of the self that once existed in your being. Energy is not deceptive. The change happens instantly when you determine that they are no longer in your field. Once they are entangled with your frequency, theirs is released. This is the alchemy of erasure. Your will is the fire that burns the invisible threads that bind them to your being. They no longer vibrate at a frequency you know, so you do not answer their calls, not because you do not want to hear them. No will of theirs can open the connection that existed between you before. People may call you in echoes of old memories, but all they discover is distortion, an empty trail where something used to be. You cannot be stopped, and like a river, you change terrain without hesitation. When ties are broken, there is only forward movement and no rest or mourning. They cling to the current as if they can make the water flow backwards and shout after you, demanding answers. But you do not break for them. Your path is not their path, and your energy is not theirs to steal. Turning back will encourage stagnation and decay under the burden of things that should have long since disappeared. You do not waste your breath on those who should not be able to keep up. They will stay where you left them, and you will go with the flow. A star continues to shine because some people cannot bear its brightness. It grows, it burns, it eats what is not its own, until there is nothing left but light. Even when you cut them down, you still stand up. There is nothing worth seeing behind you, so you don't turn back. You travel the route without regret, because it is all yours. Your subordinates were never supposed to understand you. They call you cold because they fail to grasp the importance of your mission. They mistake your kindness for weakness, so they label you as tough. But you are not here to console, care for, or support those who can never keep up. Sensitivity is not apathy, it is detachment. You do not hesitate, and the sword that cuts away the undeserving does not hesitate. The Bhagavad Gita speaks of responsibility that transcends devotion, while the Tao speaks of easy behavior. You are an instrument of the divine will, free to act as you wish, constrained only by what is in harmony with your destiny. Leaving without a trace is a correction, not an act of abandonment. It is necessary to erase because the task you are doing requires it. You know better than to label it as indifference. This is the purest kind of love, a love that does not waste its energy on things that are not meant to last, that does not linger in chain. Because you know that others cannot, that some things have to end, and it is your responsibility to make sure that they do. You do not lament those you have left behind. They will remember you as a force, a ghost, and a lesson they could not avoid, but never demanded. And those who walk with divine assurance bear this mark. Have you felt this? Did you leave so cleanly that even the memories could not stick to you? What did they do when you removed them, please? If this video resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Tell someone you think needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel and enable alerts so you don't miss more divine messages. Let's continue to share hope, love, and divine guidance together. Also, consider making a large gratitude donation to help our work. Whether your gift is $100, $200, or more, it will enable us to continue spreading these messages around the world. See you in the next video. Thank you.